Ever wonder how a guy who got shot 9 times turned getting under people's skin into an art form? Before Instagram beefs and Twitter fingers, there was 50 Cent, a man who built an empire not just from his music, but from his unmatched ability to humiliate his opponents so thoroughly they sometimes never recovered. The man who famously rapped "I'll Still Kill" wasn't just talking about violence. He was talking about character assassination, public ridicule, and the kind of psychological warfare that has made him hip-hop's undisputed troll king. This is 100 plus times 50 Cent humiliated other rappers, and trust me, some of these are so savage you'll almost feel bad for laughing. Almost. The year was 1999, and an up-and-coming Queens rapper named Curtis Jackson was making waves with his underground hit, How to Rob. The premise? He'd literally go through a list of every major hip-hop and R&B star and explain how he'd rob them. Imagine the audacity. A virtually unknown artist threatening to steal from Jay-Z, DMX, and Diddy before he'd even landed a major deal. "I'll rob Puff Daddy. I'll rob RZA. ODB can't do shit because I'll rob him in front of his bitch," he rapped with zero remorse. What made it brilliant wasn't just the concept. It was how 50 turned his underdog status into a weapon. When Jay-Z responded on "It's Hot, Some Like It Hot" with "Go against Jigga, your ass is dense, I'm about $1, what the fuck is 50 cents?" He just proved 50's strategy worked. Before streaming, before social media, 50 had figured out how to get the biggest names in hip-hop to acknowledge him. That wasn't just clever marketing. That was psychological warfare from day one. The infamous Ja Rule beef might be hip-hop's most one-sided battle ever. What started as a personal confrontation, allegedly Ja Rule was robbed of his chain and spotted 50 hanging with the robber, turned into 50 systematically dismantling Murder Inc.'s Golden Boy. The Wanksta diss track wasn't just a hit, it literally redefined Ja Rule's image overnight. One day he's a chart-topping tough guy, the next he's labeled a fake gangster by hip-hop's new anti-hero. But 50 wasn't satisfied with just winning the lyrical battle. He turned Ja into a punchline for decades. Remember those puppet parodies? Or the constant memes? 50 didn't just attack Ja's music, he attacked his entire persona, his masculinity, his credibility. And when Murder Inc. faced legal troubles, 50 was there, pouring gasoline on the fire. 20 years later, he's still taking shots. That's not a beef, that's a vendetta that turned one of the 2000's biggest stars into a running joke. Most rappers just drop diss tracks, but 50 Cent, he makes entire hit albums dedicated to destroying his enemies. Get Rich or Die Trying wasn't just 50's debut, it was a commercial weapon aimed directly at Murder Inc. and Ja Rule. When songs like Back Down became anthems, 50 proved you could commodify beef. He didn't just want to win the battle, he wanted to profit from his enemy's downfall. The genius part? While 50 was calling Ja out for being too soft and singing too much, he was over there making melodic hits like 21 Questions. The difference was framing 50 positioned himself as the authentic alternative to what he painted as Ja's fake tough guy image. And when Get Rich moved over 12 million units, it wasn't just a victory on the charts, it was 50 turning beef into business. He didn't just beat Ja Rule, he replaced him. Young Buck learned the hard way that 50 Cent's memory is long and his vengeance is cold. Once a star member of G-Unit, Buck's falling out with 50 turned into one of the most humiliating sagas in rap. When Buck started crying during a phone call begging for reconciliation, 50 didn't just keep the recording, he released it to the world. Imagine your former boss playing a tape of you crying for everyone to hear. But that was just the start. 50 claimed Buck was secretly in a relationship with a transgender woman and repeatedly questioned his sexuality, hitting him with the kind of homophobic angle that, unfortunately, still damages reputations in certain hip-hop circles. The relentlessness was the key. Year after year, 50 would bring it back up, just when people started to forget. It wasn't just about winning an argument, it was about making sure Buck could never fully recover his original reputation. The game went from 50 Cent protege to enemy so fast it gave everyone whiplash. After 50 helped launch his career on How We Do and Hate It or Love It, their fallout became legendary. But while most artists would just exchange diss tracks, 50 took it to another level by formally ejecting Game from G-Unit live on radio, effectively trying to kill his career before it really took off. But here's where 50's humiliation tactics got next level. Rather than just attack Game's music, he attacked his credibility, repeatedly claiming Game only became a blood after, getting his record deal and painting him as an industry-created gangster. He turned Game's butterfly tattoo into a punchline and positioned him as an ungrateful student who betrayed his teacher. The psychological angle was brutal. 50 wasn't just trying to beat Game, he was trying to make him look like a fraud who wouldn't exist without 50's blessing. When 50 Cent and Rick Ross started beefing, 50 skipped the usual diss track route and went straight for psychological warfare. He literally tracked down the mother of Ross's child called Tia Kemp and took her shopping, bought her a fur coat, and filmed the whole thing. He then interviewed her on camera where she claimed Ross was broke and a fraud. Imagine your ex going shopping with your arch nemesis and then exposing all your secrets. That's what 50 orchestrated. But he didn't stop there. 50 acquired and leaked a sex tape involving Ross's other baby mama, which included 50's own commentary dubbed over it. The legal troubles were worth it to 50. He wasn't just trying to win a rap beef. He was trying to humiliate Ross on a deeply personal level by literally turning the mothers of his children against him on camera. That's not a music industry beef. That's psychological operations. Did you know that before the iconic Many Men became a somber reflection on 50's near-death experience, it was actually recorded over a completely different beat? The original version had a more upbeat production, but 50 and Dr. Dre recognized that the lyrics deserved something more haunting. This last-minute switch created what many consider one of the most influential tracks in modern hip-hop, now sampled by everyone from Pop Smoke to 21 Savage. And speaking of samples, let's play a quick game. Can you guess how many rappers 50 Cent mentions by name in How to Rob? Take a second. The answer is 29. That's 29 major artists he threatened to rob in a single song when he was still virtually unknown. Talk about making an entrance in the industry. Fat Joe and 50's beef showed how 50 could hold a grudge for over a decade. When Joe sided with Ja Rule during the Murder Inc. beef, 50 put him on his permanent enemies list. Years later at the 2012 BET Hip Hop Awards, 50 orchestrated one of the coldest public humiliations ever. As Fat Joe took the stage to honor his recently deceased friend Chris Lighty, 50, who was also close to Lighty, deliberately walked out of the venue. The calculated timing made it clear this was no coincidence. 50 made sure everyone knew he would rather leave than show respect during Joe's moment, even when it was about honoring someone they both loved. He turned what should have been a solemn moment into another chapter in their beef. The message was clear. There is literally no occasion sacred enough for 50 to put aside a grudge, not even a funeral tribute. When 50 Cent and the Game were feuding, 50 didn't just want to beat Game in battle, he wanted to erase Game's contributions to hip-hop history. In interviews, 50 repeatedly claimed he wrote all of Game's hits on the documentary, including How We Do and Hate It or Love It. It wasn't enough to say the songs were bad. 50 wanted people to believe Game wasn't even capable of creating them in the first place. This particular humiliation tactic cuts deeper than most because it attacks an artist's fundamental identity. By claiming Game didn't write his own breakthrough hits, 50 was essentially saying Game's entire career was built on 50's talent. In hip-hop, where authenticity and creativity are everything, there's almost no more damaging accusation, and 50 made sure to repeat it for years, knowing how much it would burn Game to have his authorship questioned. In 2007, 50 Cent and Kanye West had their famous first-week sales battle between Curtis and Graduation. When Kanye won decisively, most artists would have conceded defeat gracefully, not 50. He immediately pivoted to claiming he never actually cared about sales and that the whole competition was just a marketing stunt he created to boost both their numbers. This is a classic 50 Cent move, rewriting history to make it impossible for him to lose. By retroactively claiming the sales battle was his idea all along, he positioned himself not as the loser of the competition, but as the marketing genius who orchestrated a win-win situation. It's like losing a race and then claiming you were actually just the event organizer. The audacity is almost admirable, and it allowed 50 to save face while simultaneously taking credit for Kanye's success. DJ Khaled learned that 50 Cent's revenge can extend beyond music into terrifyingly personal territory. After some perceived slight, 50 didn't just diss Khaled, he literally filmed himself outside Khaled's mother's workplace. In the video, 50 explains he's found where Khaled's mom works and shows her name tag on her desk, implying he could reach her anytime. The disturbing part wasn't just the stalking behavior, it was how 50 turned it into content. He edited and posted the video like it was just another music video or skit, completely normalizing what most would consider a threatening act. The message wasn't subtle. 50 was telling Khaled he could get to his family if he wanted to. This crossed the line from rap beef into something that felt genuinely menacing, and it showed that 50's humiliation tactics sometimes went far beyond entertainment into something much darker. When Diddy and 50 Cent had tensions, 50 took a uniquely insidious approach to undermining the Bad Boy founder. Instead of directly attacking Diddy, he repeatedly insinuated that Diddy was secretly gay, making suggestive comments and creating memes about Diddy's sexuality. In hip-hop's unfortunately often homophobic culture, especially in the 2000s, this was a calculated move to damage Diddy's reputation. What made this particularly effective as a humiliation tactic was its persistence. 50 would drop these insinuations casually in interviews, on social media, in passing comments, creating a whisper campaign rather than an outright accusation. It's a perfect example of 50's understanding of hip-hop's cultural fault lines and how to exploit them. He knew exactly what buttons to push to cause maximum damage to Diddy's carefully crafted image, using the culture's own prejudices as a weapon. Most rappers would be satisfied with winning a beef through music, but 50 Cent knows humiliation is sweeter when it's profitable. When he targeted Cameron during their 2007 feud, 50 didn't just release release diss tracks. He crashed the market for Cam's Purple Dipset clothing line by releasing his own G-Unit purple items first, effectively stealing Cam's signature color and associated merchandise revenue. This showed 50's unique understanding that true victory isn't just about reputation, it's about hitting opponents in their pockets. By flooding the market with purple G-Unit gear, he didn't just try to out-rap Cameron, he tried to out-entrepreneur him, turning their beef into a business strategy. This is why 50 remains so dangerous as an opponent. He understands that in the modern music industry, attacking someone's business can be more damaging than attacking their music. Have you ever wondered how 50 Cent seems to always be one step ahead in his feuds? Here's a behind-the-scenes secret. 50 reportedly maintains what his team calls a revenge file, detailed information on potential enemies that he can deploy when needed. This isn't just rumors about other rappers. It's everything from business dealings to personal relationships, all meticulously documented. This methodical approach to beef sets 50 apart from more emotionally reactive artists. While others respond in the heat of the moment, 50 studies his targets, identifies their vulnerabilities, and strikes with precision. It's the difference between throwing a wild punch and carefully placing a knife exactly where it will hurt most. And it explains why his humiliations often feel so devastatingly personal. They're not random attacks, but carefully researched strikes based on intimate knowledge of his opponent's insecurities. In 2008, 50 Cent took his humiliation tactics to new technological heights when he launched Thesis50.com. While most artists were just starting to understand social media, 50 created an entire web platform partly dedicated to embarrassing his enemies. The site featured diss content, parody videos, and unflattering stories about everyone from Rick Ross to DJ Khaled, all centralized in a 50-controlled ecosystem. This wasn't just pettiness, it was innovation. 50 essentially created his own media company where he could control the narrative about his beefs. While traditional media might give both sides of a story, Thesis50.com existed to promote 50's version of events exclusively. He understood early that owning the platform meant owning the story, effectively creating a propaganda network for his feuds. In the internet age, this was 50, showing that humiliation could be institutionalized and monetized simultaneously. Vivica A. Fox found out that dating 50 Cent meant potentially becoming fodder for his humiliation machine years later. After their relationship ended and Fox implied on Watch What Happens Live that 50 might be gay, he launched a relentless campaign mocking her appearance, age, and relevance that continued for years across social media. What makes this particularly telling about 50's approach is how he refuses to let anything go. Most celebrities have brief spats with exes that quickly fade from public memory, but 50 kept reviving the Vivica feud years after their relationship ended, posting unflattering photos and memes whenever Fox made any public comment about him. It demonstrated 50's understanding that in the social media age, humiliation isn't just about one devastating blow. It's about constant, relentless reminder that crossing 50 Cent means permanent residence on his target list. While beefing with Murder Inc., 50 Cent didn't just attack the artists, he went after their entire business infrastructure. He repeatedly claimed in interviews and songs that Irv Gotti and Supreme McGriff, a convicted drug dealer associated with Murder Inc., were engaged in money laundering. These weren't just rap battle accusations. 50 was literally suggesting federal crimes were being committed. Coincidentally or not, Murder Inc. was indeed later investigated by the feds for money laundering, though Gotti was ultimately acquitted. 50 took this opportunity to suggest his accusations had triggered the investigation, positioning himself not just as a rival rapper, but as someone powerful enough to bring federal heat on his enemies. Whether or not 50 actually had anything to do with the investigation is beside the point. He created a perception that crossing him could lead not just to embarrassment, but to actual legal jeopardy. Let's play a quick game of Did 50 Really Say That? I'll give you 3 statements related to 50 Cent's beefs, and you guess which ones he actually said. Ready? 1. If Ja Rule answers the phone, hang up on him. 2. I'll have your kid kidnapped, thrown in a van with his head cut off. 3. I don't compete with rappers, I compete with myself. If you guessed that all 3 are real quotes, you're actually wrong. Numbers 1 and 2 are verbatim 50 Cent lines, number 1 from his famous G-Unit radio boycott of Murder Inc., and number 2 from Many Men. Number 3 is made up. The fact that it's hard to tell which outrageous statements 50 actually made says everything about his approach to conflict. After Trey Songz made some comments 50 Cent didn't appreciate, 50's response demonstrated his unique approach to humiliation. Rather than engage in a traditional back and forth, 50 simply posted that he had reached out to Trey privately, and suddenly Trey was no longer interested in conflict. The implication was clear. Whatever 50 said or threatened behind closed doors was sufficient to make Trey immediately back down. This public announcement of a private surrender is classic 50. He didn't just want to end the beef. He wanted everyone to know he had scared Trey into submission. By making the resolution public while keeping the details private, 50 created a narrative where everyone was left to imagine what powerful leverage he must have had. It's psychological warfare that left Trey looking intimidated without 50 having to reveal reveal what cards he actually held. The 2014 ALS Ice Bucket Challenge became an unexpected theater for 50 Cent's beef with Floyd Mayweather. Instead of simply nominating his former friend for the charity challenge, 50 offered to donate $750,000 to any charity if Mayweather could read one full page of a Harry Potter book without starting and stopping or f***ing up. He later lowered the bar to reading one page of The Cat in the Hat. What made this particularly humiliating wasn't just the public mockery of Mayweather's rumored literacy issues, it was 50's ability to disguise cruelty as charity. By framing his taunt as a potential donation, 50 put Mayweather in an impossible position. Ignore the challenge and seem both illiterate and uncharitable, or accept it and risk public humiliation. It showed 50's unique talent for creating no-win scenarios for his targets while maintaining plausible deniability about his true intentions. When Randall Emmett, a Hollywood producer and Vanderpump Rules star, owed 50 Cent $1 million, 50 took debt collection to new humiliating heights. Instead of handling it privately, 50 posted their text exchanges online, including Emmett's panicked responses calling 50 "fofty," a typo, and begging for mercy, saying he was heading to the emergency room with chest pains from the stress. The "fofty" typo immediately became a viral meme, with 50 merchandising it on t-shirts within days. But what made this truly devastating was how 50 turned a private financial dispute into public entertainment, complete with hourly countdown posts about money by Monday. Emmett was reduced to a punchline, his dignity sacrificed for 50's social media content. And yes, Emmett did pay the money by Monday, proving that 50's public humiliation strategy was also an effective debt collection technique. Here's a little-known fact about 50 Cent's beef methodology. He actually creates elaborate backstories for his enemies. When he was feuding with Rick Ross, 50 invented an entire fictional character called Pimpin' Curly, complete with wig, outfit, and exaggerated persona to narrate his disses against Ross. This wasn't just a one-off skit, it was a recurring character with developing storylines. This approach shows how 50 understands that effective humiliation isn't just about attacking someone, it's about creating entertainment around their downfall. By turning his beef with Ross into a serialized comedy show starring Pimpin' Curly, 50 ensured people would keep coming back for more, effectively monetizing his hatred through entertainment value. It's the difference between simply insulting someone and creating an entire universe dedicated to their mockery. Most artists try to stay somewhat diplomatic about their labels, but when 50 Cent wanted to leave Interscope Records, he turned label conflict into public spectacle. He accused the label of leaking his music, threatened to not release a new album, and even posted recordings of private phone calls with label executives online, all while continuing to tag the label's accounts in his posts. This scorched earth approach to a business relationship showed 50's understanding that public humiliation can be leveraged in negotiations. By airing Interscope's dirty laundry and embarrassing executives by name, 50 created a PR nightmare that made simply releasing him from his contract the easiest solution. It was corporate negotiation via public shame, and it worked. 50 got the deal he wanted with minimal financial penalty, proving that his humiliation tactics work as well in the boardroom as they do in rap battles. When Jimmy Henchman, James Roseman, found himself in 50 Cent's crosshairs, the humiliation went beyond music into the realm of historical legacy. After Henchman was convicted on drug charges, 50 didn't just celebrate. He actively campaigned to link Henchman to the 1994 shooting of Tupac Shakur at Quad Studios, repeatedly referencing it in songs, interviews, and social media. Whether the allegations were true or not, 50's relentless framing of Henchman as the man behind one of hip-hop's most infamous moments effectively rewrote Henchman's place in rap history. Instead of being remembered as a successful manager, 50 ensured Henchman would forever be associated with the attack on Tupac. It demonstrates how 50 doesn't just try to win present-day battles, he tries to permanently alter how history will remember his opponents. Let's take a moment to appreciate 50 Cent's unique understanding of timing. When he released Heat, a track where he implied Ja Rule and Irv Gotti would face federal charges, many saw it as typical rap battle exaggeration. Then, just months later, their offices were actually raided by federal agents. Whether coincidence or inside information, 50 immediately positioned the raid as validation of his lyrics. This perfect timing created a narrative where 50 seemed almost prophetic, like he had powers beyond normal rap beef. It wasn't just that he dissed Murder Inc., it was that real-world events seemed to conform to his disses, giving him an almost mythical status in the beef. The lesson? Sometimes the most powerful humiliation isn't what you say about your enemies, but when you say it. Imagine having your enemies' fans turn against them at their own concert. When 50 Cent appeared as a surprise guest at a Jay-Z show during their tense relationship period, he performed Many Men, a song about surviving an assassination attempt, while Jay-Z stood awkwardly to the side. The crowd went wild for 50, creating a moment where Jay looked like a supporting character at his own show. What made this such effective humiliation was the subversion of hip-hop hierarchy. Jay-Z, the established king, had inadvertently inadvertently given 50 Cent a platform to outshine him on his own stage. 50 didn't need to explicitly diss Jay. The contrast in energy and audience response did the work for him. It's like being upstaged at your own dinner party, and it demonstrated 50's understanding that sometimes the most powerful move isn't confrontation but infiltration. Did you know that 50 Cent once bought 200 front row tickets to a Ja Rule concert just so the seats would remain empty? He posted on Instagram, "I just bought 200 tickets to Ja Rule's show. I ain't going. I don't want the seats filled up. I just want them empty." This isn't just petty, it's economically calculated pettiness with visual impact. The brilliance of this move was its multi-layered humiliation. First, there's the financial aspect. 50 literally paid thousands of dollars just to embarrass Ja. Second, there's the visual impact. Ja would have to perform looking at empty seats. And finally, there's the publicity angle. By announcing it on social media, 50 ensured that even people at the concert would know those seats weren't empty by accident, but as a deliberate act of sabotage. It's vengeance as performance art. The French-Montana beef revealed another classic 50 Cent tactic: overwhelming documentation. When French claimed he owned a Bugatti, 50 didn't just call him a liar. He posted the actual vehicle registration showing it was leased, not owned. When French posted about his record sales, 50 pulled up the official SoundScan numbers contradicting him. It wasn't just accusation, it was receipts upon receipts. This approach transforms humiliation from subjective trash talk to seemingly objective fact-checking. By positioning himself as merely revealing the truth with evidence, 50 created a scenario where French appeared not just as a rival, but as a documented fraud. It's the difference between calling someone fake and actually providing the paperwork proving they're fake, and it's devastatingly effective at undermining not just an opponent's arguments, but their entire credibility. When executive Steve Stout criticized 50 Cent in a 2014 interview, calling him culturally irrelevant, 50's response was characteristically direct. He confronted Stout in person at a Knicks game, an interaction that was photographed and immediately hit the internet, showing 50 standing intimidatingly close to a visibly uncomfortable Stout. No words from the confrontation were reported, but none needed to be. The image itself told the story. 50 Cent wasn't going to let criticism go unanswered, even from an industry power player, and he wasn't afraid to make the response physical and public. The photos created a humiliating narrative for Stout. He had talked boldly in the safety of an interview, but looked intimidated when actually facing 50. In one wordless interaction, 50 had transformed Stout from commentator to target. One of 50 Cent's most diabolical humiliation techniques is turning his enemies' catchphrases and signature elements against them. When beefing with Ja Rule, 50 would mockingly imitate Ja's distinctive growl. With Rick Ross, he appropriated and satirized Ross's boss persona and his signature "ugh" ad-lib. This technique is particularly effective because it attacks the very elements that make artists distinctive. In hip-hop, where personal branding is everything, having your signature style turned into a joke undermines your entire artistic identity. It's like identity theft as a battle tactic. 50 doesn't just attack his opponents, he temporarily becomes a twisted version of them, making it impossible for them to use their own artistic signatures without audiences remembering 50's mockery. It forces artists to either abandon their established style or continue using it with the knowledge that it now also evokes their enemy's parody. Most rappers drop a diss track and move on, but 50 Cent showed his unique commitment to humiliation when he bought the domain names Thisis50.com and thisisjagame.com during his feud with The Game. While 50 used his own site for promotion, he used Game's domain to post embarrassing content about him, essentially creating a website dedicated solely to mocking his former G-Unit member. This digital age approach to beef showed 50's understanding of how to extend humiliation beyond music into new technological territories. By controlling a domain name that should logically belong to Game, 50 didn't just attack Game's reputation. He literally occupied digital real estate that should have been Game's. It's like building a billboard, mocking someone on land they thought they owned. And it demonstrated 50's comprehension that in the internet era, controlling online narrative is as important as controlling lyrics. When Meek Mill and 50 Cent had tensions in 2015, 50 took a uniquely mathematical approach to humiliation. After Meek suggested 50 wasn't as wealthy as he claimed, 50 responded by literally posting bank statements showing he had over $64 million in just one account, along with the caption, "When you broke and you jealous, but she still love you." The brilliance of this move was how it turned abstract bragging into concrete evidence. Most rap beefs involve claims about money that can't be verified, but 50 created a scenario where his wealth wasn't just talked about but documented. It immediately made Meek's criticism seem like jealousy rather than insight. And by connecting the financial flex to Nicki Minaj, who was dating Meek at the time, with the "she still love you" comment, 50 managed to simultaneously attack Meek's pockets and his relationship, a devastating 2-for-1 special in the humiliation department. Have you ever noticed that 50 Cent rarely lets his targets respond on their own terms? Here's a perfect example. When Ja Rule finally agreed to a Versus battle, after years of 50's mockery, 50 immediately immediately changed the narrative by declaring he wouldn't participate. He posted, "Versus battle LOL," effectively dismissing the very idea as beneath him. This is psychological warfare at its finest. By refusing the battle after Ja had accepted, 50 created a no-win situation. If Ja backed down, he looked afraid. If he pushed for it anyway, he looked desperate for 50's attention. 50 understood that sometimes the most humiliating move isn't engaging with an enemy, but denying them the engagement they want. It's like challenging someone to a fight and then walking away when they put their fists up, a power move that makes the other person look foolish for even trying. When 50 Cent had issues with Oprah Winfrey over her criticism of hip-hop, he didn't just respond with words. He named his dog Oprah. He then regularly posted photos of Oprah Winfrey, the dog wearing female clothing, jewelry, and being placed in undignified situations, creating a living, breathing physical metaphor for his feelings about the media mogul. This bizarre tactic demonstrated 50's understanding that sometimes abstract disses aren't as effective as tangible symbols. By creating a physical representation of Oprah that he literally owned and controlled, 50 found a way to symbolically dominate someone who in reality was far more powerful than him. It was childish, yet somehow brilliant, a way to repeatedly disrespect one of the world's most respected women while maintaining the paper-thin deniability that he was just posting his pet. When various celebrities faced public scandals, 50 Cent developed a reputation for quick, often harsh commentary on social media that demonstrated his willingness to mock others during their lowest moments. This approach showed 50's understanding that in the entertainment world, other people's misfortunes could become content that boosted his own brand as an unfiltered truth teller. Unlike some celebrities who maintain diplomatic silence when others face troubles, 50 typically leaned in with commentary that ranged from subtle shade to outright mockery. This consistent willingness to capitalize on others' downfalls became part of 50's brand identity. While he didn't actually create products or games based on these situations, his social media reactions alone were enough to associate him with a particularly ruthless form of celebrity commentary that positioned him as someone who refused to play by the unwritten rules of celebrity solidarity. One of 50 Cent's most underrated humiliation techniques is his selective memory. When former G-Unit member Bang M Smurf dissed 50 after leaving the group, 50's response wasn't to engage in a traditional battle. It was to claim he barely remembered Bang M at all, saying in interviews he was just a guy who used to hang around. This dismissive amnesia is devastating because it attacks something more fundamental than skill or authenticity. It attacks the very idea that the person was ever important enough to remember. In hip-hop, where recognition and respect are currency, pretending someone was so insignificant you can't even recall them clearly is like saying they never existed in the first place. It's not just rejecting what they say, it's rejecting their entire relevance to the conversation. True or false? 50 Cent once showed up to Hot 97 with hundreds of Summer Jam tickets he'd purchased just so his fans could replace Fat Joe's fans in the audience. That's absolutely true. In 2005, when Fat Joe was set to perform at Hot 97's Summer Jam, 50 bought blocks of tickets in sections near the stage and distributed them to G-Unit supporters. The result? When Fat Joe performed, he faced rows of people in G-Unit shirts making thumbs-down gestures instead of his own fans. This move showed 50's understanding that humiliation hits differently when it happens live. He didn't just want to diss Fat Joe in songs, he wanted to create a real-time physical manifestation of rejection that Joe would have to literally face while performing. It's the difference between insulting someone online and showing up at their workplace with a crowd of people who dislike them. The psychological impact of seeing hostile faces while trying to perform can't be underestimated. While feuding with Ja Rule, 50 Cent didn't just attack him directly. He waged a proxy war by relentlessly targeting Ja's label mate Ashanti. In interviews and social media, 50 repeatedly claimed Ashanti was only successful because she was being used as a prop by Murder Inc., suggesting her voice was being replaced on tracks and that she was just a pretty face for marketing. This collateral damage approach revealed 50's understanding that sometimes the most effective way to hurt someone is to attack what they care about. By undermining Ashanti's credibility, 50 wasn't just trying to damage her career, he was trying to weaken Murder Inc. as a whole and hurt Ja Rule by proxy. It showed 50's strategic thinking. If you can't reach your main target directly, find the vulnerable people in their circle and make them collateral damage. When 50 Cent feuded with Empire creator Lee Daniels over money owed, he didn't just file a lawsuit like a normal person. He showed up at Daniels' public events, posted embarrassing private text messages, and constantly reminded his millions of followers about the debt. The pressure campaign worked. Daniels eventually settled, publicly apologized, and thanked 50 for his kindness and sensitivity. This public debt collection demonstrated 50's understanding that for celebrities, public embarrassment can be more motivating than legal threats. By turning what should have been a private financial dispute into daily social media content, 50 created a situation where paying him became the only way for Daniels to stop the public humiliation. It wasn't just about getting his money, it was about making the process of getting getting it so uncomfortable that Daniels would do anything to make it stop. When Lloyd Banks and Young Buck were still part of G-Unit, 50 Cent employed a uniquely demoralizing tactic. He would regularly tell interviewers that he wrote their verses. This wasn't just a one-time claim, it was a constant, repeated assertion that eventually became part of hip-hop lore, whether it was true or not. What makes this particularly devastating as a humiliation tactic is that it undermines the very foundation of a rapper's credibility. In hip-hop, being a skilled lyricist is fundamental to respect. By consistently suggesting he wrote for Banks and Buck, 50 wasn't just insulting them, he was positioning them as frauds whose entire careers were built on his talent. And he did this while they were supposedly his teammates, creating a power dynamic where they needed him too much to effectively counter his narrative. Most beefs stay in hip-hop circles, but 50 Cent's feud with Oprah Winfrey showed his willingness to challenge power far beyond music. When Oprah criticized rap music for misogyny, 50 didn't just defend hip-hop. He launched a years-long campaign questioning Oprah's commitment to black culture, suggesting she only embraced black men who were non-threatening to her white audience. This calculation is what made 50's approach to Oprah so effective as humiliation. He didn't just disagree with her, he positioned her as culturally inauthentic, essentially calling her credibility with black audiences into question. In the cultural context of the 2000s, this was a devastating accusation for someone of Oprah's stature. It demonstrated 50's understanding that sometimes the most powerful humiliation isn't attacking what someone does, but who they fundamentally are. When DJ Khaled posted a video saying G-Unit's musical run was over, 50 Cent responded with an elaborate video of his own. But instead of just talking tough, 50 filmed himself buying dozens of DJ Khaled t-shirts, then cutting them up and using them as rags to polish his car while explaining exactly how he was going to destroy Khaled's career. The ritualistic element is what made this particularly effective humiliation. By physically destroying Khaled merchandise on camera, 50 created a visual metaphor for what he planned to do to Khaled's career. It wasn't just trash talk, it was performance art designed to make Khaled look powerless. And by using Khaled's own products as literal cleaning rags, 50 visually reinforced the idea that Khaled was beneath him, good enough only to clean his vehicles, not to compete with him. Here's a fact that shows 50 Cent's understanding of visual mockery. During his beef with Rick Ross, 50 created numerous parody videos mocking Ross's image and music. He developed an entire character called Pimpin' Curly with a wig and exaggerated persona specifically to narrate his mockery of Ross in a series of videos that went viral on YouTube. This approach demonstrated 50's understanding of how humiliation works in the visual age. By creating character-based visual content rather than just releasing diss tracks, 50 transformed his beef with Ross into shareable entertainment. His parody videos showed his grasp that in the YouTube era, visual mockery could sometimes be more damaging and memorable than lyrical attacks alone. The videos spread widely online, effectively turning Ross's carefully constructed tough guy image into content for comedy, showing 50's talent for multimedia approaches to his feuds. When 50 Cent had issues with the game's manager Jimmy Henchman, he didn't just diss Henchman in songs, he allegedly worked behind the scenes with law enforcement. In his autobiography, From Pieces to Weight, 50 heavily implied that he had provided information to authorities about Henchman's alleged drug operations. This accusation crossed a crucial line in hip-hop culture, where cooperation with law enforcement is often viewed as the ultimate betrayal. By suggesting Henchman was an informant, 50 wasn't just attacking his music business credentials, he was attacking his very ability to exist in hip-hop culture. It's the difference between saying someone makes bad music and saying they fundamentally don't belong in the community at all. Whether the accusations were true or not, the mere suggestion was enough to cast a permanent shadow over Henchman's reputation. Let's take a quiz break. Which of these is not an actual business 50 Cent started specifically to mock one of his rivals? A. Thisis50.com, a website partly dedicated to mocking his enemies. B. Sleek by 50, headphones launched during his feud with Dr. Dre over Beats. C. G-Unit Books, which published a novel portraying a Ja Rule-like character negatively. D. Pimpin' Curly Productions, a fake production company for his Rick Ross parody videos. The answer is C. While 50 did launch G-Unit Books with MTV Pocketbooks, it wasn't specifically created to mock a rival, though he certainly used his business ventures as weapons in his feuds. This shows how 50 blurs the line between business and beef, often turning his rivalries into profit opportunities and vice versa. The Lil' Kim beef demonstrated 50 Cent's talent for timing his humiliations for maximum impact. After Kim served a prison sentence, she was set to make her comeback with a high-profile appearance at BET's 2006 pre-Grammy party. Right before the event, 50 mysteriously obtained and released Kim's song Gimme That, which was supposed to be her comeback single. By leaking the track, 50 didn't just ruin the surprise. He completely undermined Kim's carefully planned return to the spotlight. Instead of making a triumphant comeback on her own terms, Kim's narrative became about reacting to 50's leak. It showed 50's understanding that sometimes when you can't stop someone from moving forward, you can still control how and when they move. The humiliation wasn't just the leak itself, itself, but the way it forced Kim to launch her post-prison career through the lens of a feud with 50. Benzino learned that 50 Cent doesn't just humiliate his enemies, he archives their humiliation for posterity. When The Source magazine, co-owned by Benzino, criticized 50, he didn't just respond with a diss track. He compiled an entire documentary called The Infamous Times Volume 1, The Source, detailing Benzino's alleged corruption and questionable business practices at the magazine. This approach shows 50's understanding that effective humiliation isn't just momentary. It can be documented, cataloged, and preserved. By creating an actual documentary about Benzino's alleged misconduct, 50 wasn't just making claims, he was creating what appeared to be historical evidence. It's the difference between insulting someone at a party and publishing a book about their flaws. One is forgotten the next day, while the other potentially becomes a permanent reference point for how that person is viewed. Most artists stick to conventional platforms for their expression, but 50 Cent took his personal narrative into the unlikely arena of young adult literature. In 2011, he wrote a book called Playground about bullying, a semi-autobiographical story where he drew from his own experiences growing up to address the serious issue of bullying among teens. This move showed a different side of 50, one where he channeled his understanding of conflict into something constructive. The book revealed a more nuanced perspective from the rapper as he examined the psychology of both bullies and their targets. It was a surprising pivot that demonstrated 50's ability to translate his street experiences into educational content for a younger audience. And while it had nothing to do with his rap beefs, the book did show that 50 understood the dynamics of intimidation from multiple angles, something that certainly informed his approach to industry conflicts throughout his career. When Troy Ave took shots at 50 Cent, he learned about 50's unique approach to proportional response. Instead of a simple comeback, 50 posted a video breaking down Troy Ave's record sales, pointing out he had sold only 4,500 copies of his album. 50 then publicly offered Troy $5,000, explaining that was more than he'd made from his music if he would simply stop rapping. The mathematical precision of this humiliation is what made it so devastating. 50 didn't just say Troy was unsuccessful, he cited specific sales figures and then calculated an exact dollar amount that would supposedly exceed Troy's earnings. By putting an actual price tag on Troy's silence and making it insultingly low, 50 quantified exactly how worthless he considered Troy's career to be. It's like saying, "I'll pay you to stop doing what you love because you're so bad at it," and then backing it up with spreadsheets. While most rappers content themselves with verbal warfare, 50 Cent showed his commitment to physical representations of his beefs when he built an actual cemetery with tombstones for his enemies in the 2009 Crime Wave music video. The visual featured graves marked for rivals like Fat Joe, Rick Ross, and The Game. This macabre visual metaphor demonstrated 50's understanding that sometimes symbolic violence can be more intimidating than verbal threats. By literally creating graves for living rivals, 50 wasn't just saying he wanted their careers to end. He was visually suggesting he wanted them dead. It created a disturbing, permanent image that took the concept of career death to a graphically literal level. And by doing it in a professionally produced music video rather than a social media post, 50 ensured the image would have high production value and wide distribution. When Diddy launched his Kyrock vodka brand, most competitors would respond with business moves. But 50 Cent, promoting his own effin' vodka, took things in a characteristically personal direction by starting a rumor that he had bought all of Diddy's Kyrock billboards and replaced them with his own, complete with photoshopped evidence on social media. While the billboard takeover wasn't real, the rumor itself became the story, forcing Diddy to address it rather than promote his own product. This showed 50's understanding that in marketing, perception often matters more than reality. By creating a narrative where he seemed to have literally replaced Diddy's advertising with his own, 50 positioned himself as more powerful and aggressive even though no actual billboards had changed. It was business humiliation through fiction, proving you don't need to actually do something if you can make enough people believe you did. In what might be his most elaborate humiliation setup, 50 Cent reportedly bought front row tickets to a 2008 Rick Ross concert, not to leave them empty, but to strategically place his associates there wearing shirts with the face of Ross's alleged former correctional officer ID photo, directly contradicting Ross's claims of a drug kingpin past. The multi-layered psychological warfare here is impressive. First, 50 ensured Ross would have to perform while literally facing visual evidence of what 50 claimed was his fraudulent background. Second, he guaranteed that photographs and videos from the concert would capture Ross performing to an audience wearing these shirts, creating permanent documentation of the humiliation. And third, he forced Ross into a no-win situation, acknowledge the shirts and seem rattled, or ignore them and seem like he was avoiding the truth. It wasn't just an insult, it was a carefully choreographed public relations trap. Did you know 50 Cent once used subliminal marketing techniques to humiliate his enemies? During his beef with Murder Inc., 50 worked with Reebok on his G-Unit sneaker line and allegedly requested that the stores carrying his shoes not be allowed to carry Murder Inc. artist's shoes as part of his deal, effectively blocking his rivals from major retail distribution. This behind-the-scenes business maneuvering showed 50's understanding that sometimes the most effective attacks happen away from the public eye. While fans were focused on diss tracks and interviews, 50 was quietly working to limit his enemies' economic opportunities. It's the difference between insulting someone publicly and calling their boss privately to get them fired. One is spectacle, the other is strategic damage that the victim might not even immediately connect to you. It demonstrated 50's grasp that real power often works invisibly. When 50 Cent attended a 2006 industry event where Fat Joe was performing, he orchestrated one of his most visually effective humiliations. As Joe performed, 50 and his entire entourage demonstratively got up and walked out of the venue, but not before making sure the cameras caught their exit. The genius of this move was its silence. 50 didn't need to say anything. The visual of him and his team literally turning their backs and leaving during Fat Joe's performance spoke louder than any diss track could. It publicly communicated that Joe wasn't even worth 50's time to watch, let alone respond to musically. And by ensuring it was captured on camera, 50 transformed what could have been a private slight into public content that would circulate far beyond the event itself. It was disrespect as performance art, perfectly executed for maximum visual impact. Let's talk about 50 Cent's talent for humiliating people through strategic charity. When Young Buck was having financial problems, including tax issues with the IRS, 50 publicly offered to help him by buying his publishing rights. But rather than making this offer privately, 50 announced it on social media, effectively advertising Buck's financial distress to the world while positioning himself as the potential savior. This approach revealed 50's understanding that sometimes the most effective humiliation isn't attacking someone, but helping them in ways that highlight their failures. By publicly offering financial assistance, 50 wasn't just revealing Buck's money problems. He was creating a power dynamic where Buck would either have to accept help from someone he had feuded with, humiliating, or reject the help and potentially face worse financial consequences, also humiliating. It was a no-win situation disguised as generosity, and it showed how 50 can weaponize even seemingly positive actions. Here's a pop quiz for you. What famous hospital did 50 Cent threaten to buy and rename during one of his beefs? A. The hospital where Rick Ross was treated after a seizure. B. The hospital where Ja Rule was born. C. The hospital where he himself was treated after being shot. D. The hospital where DJ Khaled's mother worked. The answer is actually C. In 2012, 50 tweeted that he was going to donate to the Southside Jamaica Queens Hospital, where he was treated after being shot 9 times, with the condition that they rename it after him and remove the previous name, which happened to be of a surgeon who had connections to his enemies. While this never happened, the threat itself showed 50's understanding that humiliation can extend to institutional and community levels, not just individual rivals. When the Game released his documentary, Stop Snitching, Stop Lying, aimed at 50 Cent, 50's response demonstrated talent for counterintelligence. Rather than just responding with his own video, he somehow obtained footage from Game's documentary before its release and put out his own version first, called The Game Documentary, Una. This preemptive strike completely undercut Game's planned narrative, forcing him to release what now seemed like a response rather than an initial attack. It showed 50's understanding that in media battles, controlling the timeline is often as important as controlling the content. By releasing first, 50 seized the narrative advantage and made Game's carefully planned documentary seem like an afterthought. It's like stealing someone's punchline and telling it before the original joke teller is left with nothing but an echo. While most artists use social media as a supplement to their feuds, 50 Cent turned Instagram into his primary battleground with a uniquely relentless approach. During his beef with Floyd Mayweather, 50 posted memes mocking Floyd's reading abilities literally dozens of times over a period of years, not just during active phases of their conflict, but seemingly at random intervals, keeping the humiliation fresh. This persistence revealed 50's understanding that in social media age, humiliation is most effective when it's sustained rather than momentary. By repeatedly returning to the same insult about Mayweather's literacy for years, 50 ensured it remained part of the cultural conversation about Floyd. It's the difference between insulting someone once at a party and putting up a billboard with that insult that stays up for years. One is forgotten quickly, while the other becomes nearly impossible to escape. When rapper and love and hip-hop star Benzino criticized 50 Cent, 50's response showed his talent for turning personal insecurities into public spectacle. Instead of addressing Benzino's actual criticism, 50 repeatedly posted unflattering shirtless photos of Benzino, focusing attention on his physical appearance rather than his arguments. This body-shaming approach revealed 50's understanding that in image-conscious hip-hop culture, attacking someone's appearance can be more devastating than attacking their music. By shifting the conversation from Benzino's opinions to his physique, 50 created a situation where internet commenters piled on with their own jokes, multiplying the humiliation far beyond what 50 could have generated alone. It's a strategy that leverages the internet's worst tendencies for bullying to create a humiliation that becomes self-sustaining through social media algorithms. Think 50 Cent only humiliates fellow rappers? Think again. When TV producer Randall Emmett's fiancée, Lala Kent from Vanderpump Rules, joined in defending Emmett during 50's Money by Monday campaign, 50 immediately shifted some of his focus to her. He posted old clips of Kent admitting she had slept with Emmett on their first date in exchange for expensive gifts, using her own words to paint her as a gold digger. This collateral damage approach showed 50's understanding that sometimes the best way to pressure your main target is to create problems in their personal relationships. By publicly humiliating Kent, 50 wasn't just attacking her. He was putting additional stress on Emmett's relationship during a time when Emmett was already dealing with 50's $1 million demand. It's psychological warfare that targets not just the individual, but their support system, making it harder for them to focus on defending themselves. One of 50 Cent's most strategic humiliation techniques is what we might call the false peace offering. During his beef with The Game, 50 publicly stated he was open to reconciliation, but only after detailing all of Game's alleged failings and positioning the potential truce as him mercifully allowing Game back into his good graces rather than a mutual resolution. This approach creates a no-win situation for the opponent. Reject the peace offering and appear petty, or accept it and tacitly acknowledge 50's framing of the situation, including all the insults that came with it. It showed 50's understanding that sometimes offering peace can be more damaging than continuing war, especially when the offer itself contains hidden barbs. It's like extending a handshake while simultaneously explaining why you're the bigger person for doing so. The gesture itself becomes another vehicle for humiliation. When 50 Cent feuded with Cameron, he demonstrated his talent for targeting business relationships, not just personal ones. At the height of their beef, 50 publicly pressured Coke Records, which distributed Cam's Diplomat Records, by announcing he would not allow G-Unit artists to work with anyone who worked with Cam, effectively forcing the label to choose between them. This industry leverage approach showed 50's understanding that in the music business, isolation can be more damaging than direct attacks. By threatening Coke's ability to work with G-Unit's more commercially successful artists, 50 created a situation where Cam's own business partners had financial incentive to distance themselves from him. It's like telling all the popular kids they can't come to your party if they're friends with someone you don't like. Eventually, social and financial pressure does your work for you. Here's something you might not know. 50 Cent once went so far in humiliating an opponent that he actually got sued for it. After posting the sex tape involving Rick Ross's ex, with his own mocking commentary dubbed over it, 50 faced a lawsuit from the woman in the video, Lastonia Leviston, which eventually resulted in a $7 million judgment against him. The fact that 50 was willing to risk legal consequences and eventually file for bankruptcy protection partly due to this judgment demonstrated just how far he was willing to go to humiliate an enemy. Most artists might back down when legal lines are crossed, but 50 seemed to view even multi-million-dollar penalties as simply the cost of doing business in his campaign against Ross. It showed an almost pathological commitment to humiliation that transcended rational cost-benefit analysis. 50 was literally willing to risk financial ruin if it meant successfully embarrassing a rival. Did you know 50 Cent once used a fake funeral to mock his enemies? In 2007, to symbolize the death of G-Unit's former members, 50 held a mock funeral at Hot 97 radio station, complete with coffins labeled with the names of Young Buck, The Game, and others who had left or been kicked out of the group. This macabre theater demonstrated 50's understanding that effective humiliation often requires visual symbolism that goes beyond words. By literally staging a funeral for former associates, 50 wasn't just saying their careers were over. He was creating a physical representation of their death that could be photographed, videotaped, and shared. It's the difference between saying someone is dead to you and actually holding a funeral service for them. One is a figure of speech, while the other is a disturbing physical enactment that makes the sentiment impossible to ignore. When 50 Cent feuded with boxer Floyd Mayweather, he showed his talent for humiliating people on their biggest stages. Right before Mayweather's high-profile fight with Manny Pacquiao, 50 predicted Floyd would lose and publicly bet against him, a move designed to distract Floyd during the most important professional moment of his career. This timing revealed 50's understanding that humiliation hits hardest when it comes during someone's moment of greatest visibility and pressure. By trying to get in Mayweather's head right before his biggest fight, 50 wasn't just attacking Floyd personally, he was potentially interfering with his professional performance on the biggest stage of his career. It's like heckling someone during their wedding vows rather than at a random dinner. The timing multiplies the impact, regardless of the content of the insult. Most rappers limit their beefs to music, but 50 Cent showed his unique approach when he extended his feud with Ja Rule into the world of film. When Ja attempted to launch an acting career, 50 allegedly worked behind the scenes to block him from certain roles and opportunities, according to multiple industry sources, including director Rob Hardy. This behind-the-scenes sabotage revealed 50's understanding that true power often works invisibly. Rather than just mocking Ja's acting aspirations publicly, 50 reportedly took concrete steps to actually prevent those aspirations from being realized. realize. It's the difference between laughing at someone's job application and calling the company to make sure they don't get hired. One is public humiliation, while the other is private obstruction that the victim might not even be able to trace back to you. Let's take a quick quiz break. Which of these is not a real 50 Cent beef strategy? A. Buying front row tickets to an enemy's concert to leave them empty. B. Creating a fictional character to narrate disses against opponents. C. Interviewing an opponent's ex on camera about their personal life. D. Paying a private investigator to dig up dirt on rival rappers' families. The answer is D. While 50 Cent has been accused of many things, there's no evidence he's hired private investigators to target his rivals' families. This shows that even without resorting to truly invasive tactics, 50 has enough creative and ruthless strategies to maintain his reputation as hip-hop's premier antagonist. When 50 Cent feuded with former G-Unit member Young Buck, he revealed one of his most devastating humiliation tactics: the strategic release of private conversations. After Buck reached out to 50 privately to try to resolve their issues, 50 recorded the call, which included Buck becoming emotional and crying, and later released it to the public. This breach of private communication demonstrated 50's understanding that in hip-hop's hypermasculine culture, vulnerability is often perceived as weakness. By exposing a moment when Buck dropped his tough facade and showed genuine emotion, 50 wasn't just attacking Buck's arguments, he was attacking his very identity as a hard rapper. It's the difference between beating someone in a debate and secretly filming them having a breakdown after the debate. One targets their ideas, while the other targets their very self-image. While most rappers stick to traditional diss formats, 50 Cent pioneered the use of parody animation as a humiliation tactic. During his beef with Rick Ross, 50 created an entire animated series called Officer Ricky, featuring a cartoon version of Ross as a police officer, playing on allegations about Ross's past employment in ridiculous, embarrassing scenarios. This approach revealed 50's understanding that in the internet age, humiliation is most effective when it's both entertaining and shareable. By creating actual cartoon episodes rather than just making accusations, 50 transformed his beef with Ross into content that people would actively seek out and share for its entertainment value, not just its drama. It's the difference between insulting someone and creating a comedy show about them. One is momentary conflict, while the other becomes part of popular culture. Did you know that 50 Cent once crashed an award show after party sponsored by one of his rivals? When Ja Rule and Murder Inc. were hosting a post-award show celebration, 50 and his entourage showed up uninvited and effectively took over the event, causing Ja and his team to leave their own party rather than risk confrontation. This physical space invasion demonstrated 50's understanding that some of the most effective humiliation happens in person, not just online or in music. By literally taking over his enemy's celebration, 50 created a situation where Ja was forced to abandon an event his own label was paying for. It's like someone coming to your birthday party uninvited and being so intimidating that you have to leave, except it happened on a music industry stage where reputation and power are everything. When 50 Cent feuded with DJ Khaled, he showed his talent for turning geographic knowledge into psychological warfare. After obtaining Khaled's mother's home address, she worked in a clothing store 50 filmed himself visiting. 50 posted Google Maps screenshots showing detailed directions to the house, along with threatening messages. The disturbing precision of this approach revealed 50's understanding that sometimes the mere demonstration of capability can be more intimidating than direct threats. By showing he knew exactly how to reach Khaled's family, 50 created fear without explicitly saying what he might do with that information. It's the difference between vaguely threatening someone and letting them know you're standing outside their house. The specificity makes the implied threat feel much more immediate and credible. Most rappers keep their beef within hip-hop circles, but 50 Cent showed his talent for making powerful enemies when he took on Oprah Winfrey. After she criticized hip-hop for misogyny and violence, 50 didn't just defend rap music. He suggested Oprah had a racial bias against certain types of black men and named his dog after her, regularly posting photos of Oprah the dog in various undignified situations. This choice of target revealed 50's fearlessness in challenging even the most universally respected figures. By taking on someone of Oprah's stature and cultural significance, 50 positioned himself as an iconoclast, willing to question any authority, no matter how beloved. It's the difference between picking a fight with a rival rapper and picking a fight with a cultural institution. One is expected hip-hop conflict, while the other challenges the very hierarchies of American celebrity culture. In what might be his most bizarre humiliation tactic, 50 Cent once purchased a three-wheel motorcycle identical to one Rick Ross owned, then created a video where he took the bike to a hospital and donated it to a child with disabilities, implying Ross's prized vehicle was actually more appropriate for children than adults. This elaborate setup demonstrated 50's understanding that effective humiliation often requires unexpected creative angles. By transforming Ross's status symbol into a children's toy through the context of a fake charity donation, 50 attacked not just Ross, but the very objects Ross used to project his image. It's like someone buying the same expensive watch as you, then giving it to a child while filming the whole thing. The object that once signified your success success now becomes a prop in a humiliating narrative about your taste and maturity. Let's talk about 50 Cent's unique understanding of humiliation through institutional delegitimization. When Ja Rule was trying to rebuild his career after their initial feud, 50 worked to block him from major platforms by allegedly threatening to pull out of any event or show that booked Ja, effectively creating an industry blackball through his own leverage. This systematic approach revealed 50's understanding that sometimes the most effective way to humiliate someone isn't through direct confrontation, but through institutional isolation. By potentially limiting Ja's access to the platforms necessary for career rehabilitation, 50 wasn't just insulting Ja, he was creating concrete obstacles to his professional viability. It's the difference between publicly mocking someone's job prospects and actually calling companies to ensure they don't get interviews. One is public humiliation, while the other is private obstruction that creates real-world consequences. When 50 Cent feuded with Rick Ross, he demonstrated his talent for turning legal documents into humiliation weapons. After Ross bragged about his drug dealer past, 50's team uncovered court records allegedly showing Ross had worked as a correctional officer, directly contradicting his street narrative. But rather than just mention this, 50 published the actual documents online. This receipt-based approach revealed 50's understanding that in the internet age, documentation trumps accusation. By providing what appeared to be actual evidence rather than just making claims, 50 transformed the humiliation from subjective trash talk to seemingly objective fact-checking. It's the difference between calling someone a liar and producing notarized evidence of their deception. One is opinion, while the other creates a much more difficult narrative for the target to counter. In what might be considered a technologically advanced brand extension, 50 Cent leveraged his tough image into the gaming world with 50 Cent Bulletproof, a third-person shooter released for PlayStation 2 and Xbox in 2005. While the game didn't feature real-life rap rivals as opponents, contrary to rumors that circulated, it did capitalize on 50's persona as an urban survivor who wasn't afraid of conflict. The game allowed 50 to extend his brand narrative of being the indestructible gangster who survived 9 gunshots. Though critically panned, the game sold well enough to spawn a sequel, 50 Cent Blood on the Sand, showing 50's understanding that modern media culture thrives on cross-platform storytelling. By bringing his persona to gaming, 50 demonstrated his business savvy in monetizing his image across different entertainment mediums, even if the actual gameplay didn't live up to the hype of his music career. Did you know 50 Cent once used the court system itself as a humiliation tactic? During his legal battle with Rick Ross over the sex tape case, 50 filed numerous motions requiring Ross to appear for depositions and hearings, essentially forcing him to repeatedly take time away from his career to deal with legal proceedings that 50 often treated as opportunities for further antagonism. This legal system weaponization demonstrated 50's understanding that sometimes the most effective humiliation uses society's own structures against the target. By forcing Ross into the role of reluctant legal participant, 50 created a situation where Ross had to either comply with 50's demands, humiliating, or face legal consequences for non-compliance, also potentially humiliating. It showed how 50 can turn even seemingly neutral institutions into theaters for his feuds. When 50 Cent had issues with former Aftermath producer Shaw Money XL, he demonstrated his talent for rewriting collaborative history. After their falling out, 50 began claiming in interviews that Shaw Money had contributed far less to his early success than was commonly believed, effectively attempting to erase Shaw's contributions to 50's career narrative. This historical revisionism revealed 50's understanding that in hip-hop, legacy and credit are forms of currency. By diminishing Shaw Money's role in his rise, 50 wasn't just insulting him in the present, he was attempting to literally remove him from the historical record of 50's success story. It's the difference between insulting a former collaborator and attempting to erase their very existence from your biography. One attacks their feelings, while the other attacks their place in history. Let's try another quiz. Which of these platforms has 50 Cent not used to humiliate his enemies? A. Children's books. B. Video games. C. Animated cartoons. D. Broadway musicals. The answer is D. While 50 has indeed used children's literature, his anti-bullying book Playground, video games, 50 Cent Bulletproof, and animation, the Officer Ricky cartoons, as vehicles for humiliation, he hasn't yet ventured into Broadway to continue his beefs. Though given his history of finding unexpected platforms, a 50 Cent musical targeting his enemies doesn't seem entirely outside the realm of possibility. Most artists limit their feuds to other artists, but 50 Cent showed his unique approach when he took on entire record labels. During his beef with Murder Inc., 50 didn't just target Ja Rule and Irv Gotti, he went after Def Jam, Murder Inc.'s distributor, as a whole, creating the slogan Defy Jam and suggesting the entire historic label was compromised by its association with Murder Inc. This institutional targeting revealed 50's understanding that sometimes the most effective way to isolate an enemy is to make being associated with them costly for others. By attacking not just Murder Inc. Bank but their corporate parent, 50 created a situation where Def Jam executives had financial incentive to distance themselves from Ja and Irv. It's like targeting not just a person you dislike, but their entire workplace, forcing everyone around them to choose sides. This approach demonstrated 50's understanding that institutional pressure can be more effective than individual attacks. When 50 Cent had issues with Jay-Z, he showed his talent for using symbolic imagery as humiliation. During performances of I Get Money remix, 50 would often pantomime removing a crown from his head and throwing it to the ground, a clear reference to Jay's King of New York status that 50 was literally and figuratively discarding. This visual metaphor demonstrated 50's understanding that in hip-hop, power is often communicated through symbols and gestures. By physically enacting the removal and discarding of an imaginary crown during performances, 50 created a memorable visual that communicated disrespect more effectively than words alone could. It's like burning someone's flag rather than just criticizing their country. The symbolic action carries emotional weight that transcends verbal disagreement. Most artists limit their humiliation tactics to their own platforms, but 50 Cent showed his strategic thinking when he literally purchased advertising space to mock his enemies. During his beef with the Game, 50 bought billboard space in Game's hometown of Compton featuring G-Unit and the slogan "G-U-Not" crossed out, essentially using commercial advertising real estate to publicly reject Game in his own neighborhood. This territorial approach revealed 50's understanding that location adds context to humiliation. By placing his message specifically in Compton, 50 wasn't just mocking Game anywhere, he was challenging his credibility in the very place Game claimed to represent. It's like putting up a "not welcome" sign on someone's front lawn. The placement itself becomes part of the message, making it impossible for Game to move through his own hometown without being reminded of 50's rejection. In what might be his most elaborate humiliation campaign, 50 Cent created an entire fictional character called Pimpin' Curly, complete with wig, exaggerated mannerisms, and distinctive voice, for the sole purpose of mocking Rick Ross. This wasn't just a one-off parody, it was a recurring character who appeared in multiple videos specifically targeting Ross. This character-based approach demonstrated 50's understanding that sustained humiliation requires narrative and entertainment value. By creating Pimpin' Curly, 50 transformed his beef with Ross from a simple conflict into serialized content that fans would actually look forward to. It's the difference between insulting someone and creating an entire comedy show about them. One is momentary, while the other creates a persistent framework for continued mockery that can evolve and adapt over time. What's the most unlikely platform 50 Cent has used to humiliate his enemies? You might be surprised to learn that in 2016, he used his grandmother's garden as a stage for mockery. When trolling Diddy about his vodka brand, 50 filmed himself in his grandmother's garden explaining how he was growing potatoes to make his own vodka, specifically to compete with and outperform Diddy's Ciroc. This domestic setting revealed 50's understanding that context can add layers to humiliation. By framing his business rivalry with Diddy through the homey, authentic setting of his grandmother's garden, 50 was implicitly contrasting his perceived authentic roots with Diddy's more glossy commercial image. It's like challenging someone to a fight, but insisting it happen at your family reunion. The setting itself becomes part of the message, suggesting you're so comfortable and confident that you can conduct business battles from your family's space. When 50 Cent feuded with boxing promoter Bob Arum, he demonstrated his talent for turning philanthropy into psychological warfare. After Arum criticized 50's entry into boxing promotion, 50 responded by donating money to a charity for hunger, but specifically in Arum's name and without his consent, then publicizing the generous donation on social media. This charitable trolling revealed 50's understanding that sometimes the most effective humiliation comes disguised as positivity. By making Arum unwittingly donate to charity, 50 created a no-win situation. If Arum objected, he would appear to be against charity. If he said nothing, he would seem to have conceded to 50's power to act in his name. It's like signing someone up for a marathon without their knowledge, then publicly congratulating them for their commitment to fitness. The positive framing makes any objection seem petty. One of 50 Cent's most distinctive humiliation techniques is what we might call the mock business offer. When feuding with Floyd Mayweather, 50 publicly offered Floyd $5 million to read a single page of a Harry Potter book aloud without difficulty, framing it as a legitimate business proposition rather than what it actually was, a public attack on Mayweather's rumored literacy issues. This approach revealed 50's understanding that in capitalism-obsessed American culture, framing mockery as business can make it appear more legitimate. By structuring his insult as a specific monetary offer with conditions, 50 created something that resembled a business challenge more than simple ridicule, making it harder for Mayweather to dismiss. It's like insulting someone's skills, but packaging it as a job offer they're not qualified for. The formal structure makes the rejection feel more official and therefore more humiliating. Most artists use their own music to diss enemies, but 50 Cent showed his strategic thinking when he purchased the publishing rights to songs by Murder Inc. artists during the label's financial troubles, literally taking ownership of his enemy's creative output and potentially profiting from it. This ownership humiliation demonstrated 50's understanding that in the music industry, copyright control is the ultimate power move. By acquiring financial interest in his enemies' work, 50 wasn't just mocking them, he was potentially making money every time someone listened to the very songs created by artists who opposed him. It's like not just defeating your enemies, but literally owning pieces of them, transforming them from opponents into unwilling business partners in their own humiliation. Let's take a historical quiz break. In what year did 50 Cent release How to Rob, the song where he threatened to steal from nearly every major hip-hop star at the time? A. 1997, B. 1999, C. 2001, D. 2003. The answer is B. 1999. This early demonstration of 50's confrontational strategy came before his mainstream success, showing that his approach to humiliation has been consistent throughout his career, not just something he developed after achieving fame. It's remarkable to realize that the same basic psychological warfare techniques 50 used as an unknown artist would later be applied on a much larger scale once he had the platform and resources of stardom. When 50 Cent had issues with former G-Unit member Spider Locke, he demonstrated his talent for dismissive erasure. Rather than engage in a conventional back and forth, 50 responded to Spider's disses by claiming in interviews that Spider was never officially signed to G-Unit in the first place, effectively attempting to remove him from the label's history entirely. This historical revisionism revealed 50's understanding that in hip-hop, affiliation is a form of credibility. By denying Spider was ever formally part of G-Unit, 50 wasn't just insulting him, he was attempting to strip him of the very association that gave him visibility in the industry. It's like not just firing someone, but claiming they never worked for you at all, an attack not just on their current status, but on their very biographical narrative. Most artists limit their feuds to direct competitors, but 50 Cent showed his wide-ranging animosity when he targeted talk show host Wendy Williams. After Williams discussed 50's personal life on her show, he banned her from attending his Tycoon pool party event, posting security footage of her being turned away at the door, along with mocking commentary. This boundary-setting humiliation demonstrated 50's understanding that exclusion from desirable spaces can be more effective than direct confrontation. By literally preventing Williams from entering his event and then publicizing that prevention, 50 created a visual representation of her rejection that was more powerful than any verbal response could be. It's like not just disinviting someone from a party, but posting the video of them being turned away at the door. The public enforcement of the boundary becomes part of the humiliation itself. In what might be his most bizarrely specific humiliation tactic, 50 Cent once purchased hundreds of front row seats at a Ja Rule concert specifically so they would remain empty. He announced this move on Instagram, writing, "I just bought 200 tickets to Ja Rule's show. I ain't going. I don't want the seats filled up. I just want them empty." This economic sabotage revealed 50's understanding that for performers, visible audience engagement is crucial to both practical success and psychological validation. By ensuring Ja would be performing to visibly empty seats, 50 wasn't just costing him potential ticket revenue, he was guaranteeing that every photo and video from the concert would show empty spaces right in front of the stage. It's like throwing a party for someone and then paying all the guests not to show up. The emptiness itself becomes evidence of rejection. When 50 Cent feuded with his own son Marquise, he demonstrated that literally no relationship was sacred enough to exempt someone from his humiliation tactics. After their falling out, 50 publicly calculated on social media exactly how much child support he had paid over the years, breaking it down to a per-day amount to suggest Marquise had been overvalued. This mathematical approach to family conflict revealed 50's understanding that quantification can make humiliation feel more objective. By reducing his son to a financial calculation, 50 transformed what could have been a private family disagreement into a public accounting exercise, suggesting that their relationship could be evaluated in purely monetary terms. It showed that 50's humiliation tactics aren't just business strategies, but deeply ingrained responses that he applies even to his closest personal relationships. Most artists try to maintain plausible deniability in their feuds, but 50 Cent showed his direct approach when feuding with Vivica A. Fox. After she implied on TV that 50 might be gay, he responded by posting unflattering photos of her with captions detailing specific sexual acts she had allegedly performed during their relationship, crossing lines that most celebrities would avoid out of legal concerns if nothing else. This explicit oversharing revealed 50's understanding that in an era of carefully managed celebrity images, raw personal details can be devastating. By sharing intimate claims about their relationship that would be impossible for Fox to address without further embarrassment, 50 created a no-win situation where any response would only extend the humiliation. It's the scorched earth approach to relationship fallout, prioritizing damage over discretion in ways that make conventional PR responses impossible. Did you know 50 Cent once used the concept of nutritional supplements to humiliate an enemy? When feuding with Ja Rule, 50 created and marketed a fake product called Ja Rule Attack Repellent, complete with professional-looking packaging and advertisements claiming it would protect users from wanksta attacks, referencing referencing his hit song targeting Ja. This product-based mockery demonstrated 50's understanding that effective humiliation often works best through tangible objects rather than just words. By creating an actual physical product dedicated to mocking Ja, 50 transformed his disses from ephemeral comments into something that existed in the material world. It's like not just insulting someone, but manufacturing and selling the insult as a consumer good, turning mockery into merchandise and potentially profiting from the humiliation. When 50 Cent feuded with Billy Ado, a former G-Unit affiliate, he demonstrated his talent for dismissive minimization. Rather than engage with Ado's specific criticisms, 50 responded by claiming he didn't even remember who Ado was, posting, "Who? I don't know this guy. Somebody tell him I said he can't afford me for a real beef." This calculated amnesia revealed 50's understanding that in status-conscious hip-hop culture, recognition itself is a form of validation. By claiming not to remember someone who had been in his inner circle, 50 wasn't just insulting Ado. He was suggesting Otto was so insignificant that he had left no impression whatsoever. It's like pretending not to recognize a former co-worker. The denial of shared history becomes a statement about their memorability and importance. Let's play a quick game. Which of these is not an actual humiliation tactic 50 Cent has used against his enemy? A. Creating a fictional character to narrate disses. B. Buying empty concerts. Seats in front row C. Purchasing a competitor's entire company. D. Recording private phone calls and releasing them. The answer is C. While 50 Cent has indeed created fictional characters like Pimpin' Curly, bought empty concert seats to embarrass Ja Rule, and released private recordings of Young Buck, he hasn't yet purchased an entire company owned by a rival. Though given his business acumen and commitment to feuds, it wouldn't be entirely surprising if he eventually added this to his humiliation repertoire. One of 50 Cent's most psychologically devastating humiliation techniques is what we might call the false reconciliation. When feuding with the Game, 50 would occasionally suggest they were on better terms, even posting seemingly friendly photos together, only to resume mocking him shortly after, making Game appear foolish for thinking they had genuinely reconciled. This on-again, off-again approach revealed 50's understanding that hope can be weaponized. By briefly offering what seemed like friendship before returning to hostility, 50 created an emotional roller coaster for his target that was more destabilizing than consistent antagonism would be. It's like repeatedly offering and then withdrawing forgiveness. The unpredictability itself becomes a form of psychological warfare that makes the target seem gullible each time they believe reconciliation might be genuine. When 50 Cent feuded with Ja Rule, he demonstrated his talent for creating physical manifestations of disrespect. During performances, 50 would often bring out a life-sized effigy of Ja Rule, sometimes hanging it from a noose or otherwise destroying it on stage as audiences cheered. This ritualistic approach revealed 50's understanding that symbolic destruction can be more viscerally satisfying for audiences than verbal disses. By creating an actual physical representation of Ja that he could then destroy, 50 transformed abstract conflict into concrete spectacle. It's like burning someone in effigy. The visual impact of the destruction creates a more powerful emotional response than words alone could generate, turning humiliation into performance art. Most artists limit their humiliation tactics to entertainment context, but 50 Cent showed his comprehensive approach when he interfered with Fat Joe's business ventures. When Joe launched a sneaker line, 50 reportedly pressured retailers not to carry the product, using his own commercial relationships as leverage to limit Joe's distribution. This economic sabotage revealed 50's understanding that in capitalist society, financial damage can be more effective than reputational attacks. By potentially affecting Joe's ability to succeed in business rather than just mocking him publicly, 50 created consequences that extended beyond ego to actual livelihood. It's the difference between insulting someone's career and actually interfering with their ability to work. One hurts feelings, while the other hurts bank accounts. In what might be his most technologically advanced humiliation technique, 50 Cent created an entire interactive website dedicated to mocking Ja Rule during their feud. The site featured games where users could participate in humiliating Ja, including one where players could dress up a Ja Rule doll in various embarrassing outfits. This participatory approach revealed 50's understanding that in internet culture, engagement multiplies impact. By creating interactive content rather than just static insults, 50 invited his audience to become active participants in the humiliation process, making them collaborators rather than just observers. It's like the difference between telling a joke about someone and creating a comedy workshop where everyone practices making fun of that person. The collective participation amplifies the humiliation far beyond what one person could generate alone. Did you know 50 Cent frequently used death imagery and funeral metaphors to mock his rivals' careers? During his beef with Murder Inc., 50 would reference Ja Rule's dead career in interviews and social media posts, sometimes accompanied by RIP graphics or other imagery suggesting Ja's relevance had expired. This morbid approach demonstrated 50's understanding that death metaphors carry particular weight in hip-hop culture. By consistently framing Ja Rule's career as deceased, 50 created a powerful narrative that was pictured picked up by fans and media alike. Though he didn't actually place obituaries in newspapers as some rumors claimed, 50 did stage mock funerals during performances and created visual content using coffins and funeral imagery, showing his grasp of how powerful symbolic death could be in the context of rap rivalries. When 50 Cent feuded with Diddy over their competing vodka brands, he demonstrated his talent for turning business rivalries into personal attacks. While promoting his Effin' Vodka brand, 50 would frequently mock Diddy's Ciroc in social media posts and videos, sometimes pouring it down drains or using the bottles for inappropriate purposes to suggest the product was only good for waste. This commercial rivalry approach revealed 50's understanding that in modern culture, attacking someone's business ventures could be more effective than just personal insults. By consistently mocking Ciroc while promoting Effin', 50 wasn't just attacking Diddy personally, he was attempting to undermine Diddy's business success and associate his product with negative imagery. It showed 50's grasp that for entrepreneurs like Diddy, attacks on their business ventures could feel more damaging than attacks on their music or personal life. Most artists stick to conventional platforms for their feuds, but 50 Cent showed his innovative thinking when he used holiday occasions as opportunities for humiliation. On Valentine's Day 2019, 50 posted a doctor's x-ray image supposedly showing Ja Rule's heart with the caption, "Ja Rule's heart x-ray. You should take care of yourself." This holiday-themed mockery demonstrated 50's understanding that context creates contrast. By using a day associated with love and affection to continue a long-running feud, 50 created a jarring juxtaposition that made his post stand out among typical Valentine's content. It's like giving someone a birthday card filled with insults. The violation of the occasion's expected tone makes the disrespect even more noticeable and therefore more effective as humiliation. Let's try another quick knowledge quiz. Which famous actor did 50 Cent once recruit to help humiliate one of his rap enemies? A. Denzel Washington. B. Will Smith. C. Kevin Hart. D. Samuel L. Jackson. The answer is C. Kevin Hart. During his feud with Meek Mill, 50 collaborated with comedian Kevin Hart to mock Meek in a series of videos and social media posts, showing his talent for forming humiliation alliances. By bringing in a beloved comedian to join his mockery, 50 not only amplified the reach of his disses, but also added an entertainment value that made the humiliation more palatable and shareable for audiences who might otherwise have found straight antagonism off-putting. One of 50 Cent's most calculating humiliation techniques is what we might call the strategic compliment. When feuding with Jay-Z, 50 would occasionally praise specific aspects of Jay's business acumen or past music, while simultaneously suggesting Jay was now too corporate and removed from authentic hip-hop culture to deserve his status. This selective praise revealed 50's understanding that limited positive comments can actually make criticism more damaging. By acknowledging some of Jay's accomplishments, 50 positioned his negative comments not as blind hatred, but as seemingly objective assessment, making them harder to dismiss as mere jealousy. It's like starting a negative performance review with compliments. The positives create a contrast that makes the criticism seem more thoughtful and therefore more credible. When 50 Cent feuded with Rick Ross, he demonstrated his talent for using the legal system as a humiliation platform. After being sued by Ross's ex-girlfriend over the sex tape 50 had released, 50 used the required court appearances as opportunities to make mocking statements to the press, essentially turning a lawsuit against him into another venue for continuing his attacks. This litigation leverage revealed 50's understanding that even negative legal situations can become positive humiliation opportunities. By using press conferences necessitated by his own legal problems to further antagonize Ross, 50 transformed what should have been a defensive position into an offensive one. It's like being forced to apologize but using the apology itself to slip in new insults, a subversion of the expected purpose of the interaction that catches the target off guard. Most artists avoid medical issues in their feuds, but 50 Cent showed no such restraint when Rick Ross suffered seizures in 2011. Rather than showing concern, 50 immediately questioned the medical emergency's authenticity on social media, suggesting it was a publicity stunt and referring to Ross as Ricky Lumpkins while making jokes about the situation. This health crisis exploitation demonstrated 50's understanding that moments of vulnerability can be the most effective times for attacks. By questioning the legitimacy of Ross's medical emergency, 50 wasn't just mocking Ross, he was attempting to transform what should have been a moment of sympathy into one of skepticism. It's like accusing someone of faking an injury right after they fall. The timing itself becomes part of the humiliation, suggesting they aren't even worthy of basic human concern during a crisis. Did you know 50 Cent once used children's cartoon characters to humiliate an enemy? During his feud with Ja Rule, 50 created memes and videos featuring Ja as various cartoon characters, including one memorable series where Ja's face was superimposed on Dora the Explorer's body, complete with childish voiceovers. This infantilization approach revealed 50's understanding that in hip-hop's hypermasculine culture, association with childishness can be devastating. devastating. By literally transforming Ja into a children's cartoon character, 50 attacked the core of Ja's tough guy persona, making him literally difficult to take seriously. It's like putting your adult opponent in a baby costume. The visual association with childhood innocence makes any attempts at maintaining a hardened image seem absurd. When 50 Cent feuded with Ashanti, he demonstrated his talent for using sales figures as weapons. After Ashanti's album sold poorly compared to her earlier releases, 50 didn't just mock the numbers. He created detailed, spreadsheet-style breakdowns comparing her sales decline over time, presenting her career as a mathematical failure rather than just a subjective disappointment. This quantitative approach revealed 50's understanding that in an industry obsessed with numbers, specific data can be more humiliating than general criticism. By presenting Ashanti's declining commercial performance as a series of specific figures rather than just calling her a flop, 50 created the impression of objective failure rather than subjective opinion. It's like not just saying someone is unpopular, but producing a scientific study proving exactly how unpopular they are. The precision makes the criticism harder to dismiss. Most artists limit their feuds to the individuals directly involved, but 50 Cent showed his comprehensive approach when feuding with Murder Inc.'s Irv Gotti. Rather than just attacking Gotti himself, 50 systematically targeted Gotti's artists, business partners, family members, and associates, essentially creating a network of simultaneous feuds designed to isolate Gotti from his support system. This isolation strategy demonstrated 50's understanding that humans are fundamentally social creatures, vulnerable to community pressure. By targeting not just Gotti, but everyone connected to him, 50 created a situation where maintaining a relationship with Gotti potentially meant becoming a target oneself. It's like not just declaring war on a country, but also threatening any nation that trades with them. The secondary pressure often proves more effective than the primary attack. In what might be his most elaborately passive-aggressive humiliation tactic, 50 Cent once sent a get-well-soon flower arrangement to a hospital where his enemy Slow, from rap group Mop, was recovering after being shot. The card allegedly read, "From your friends at G-Unit," despite Slow and 50 being rivals. This inappropriate sympathy revealed 50's understanding that sometimes apparent kindness can be more unsettling than direct hostility. By sending flowers, normally a gesture of goodwill, with clear undertones of mockery, 50 created confusion about his intentions that would be more psychologically destabilizing than straightforward antagonism. It's like smiling while delivering bad news. The disconnect between the action and its apparent meaning creates a discomfort that goes beyond simple hostility. Let's try another pop quiz. Which of these feuds has lasted the longest in 50 Cent's career? A. 50 Cent versus The Game. B. 50 Cent versus Rick Ross. C. 50 Cent versus Ja Rule. D. 50 Cent versus Fat Joe. The answer is C. 50 Cent versus Ja Rule. This beef has been active in some form since approximately 1999, making it over 2 decades of sustained antagonism. The longevity demonstrates 50's remarkable commitment to humiliation as not just a momentary tactic, but a long-term strategy. While most hip-hop beefs flare up and die down within months or a few years, 50 has maintained his campaign against Ja Rule across multiple decades, platforms, and contexts, showing that for 50, humiliation isn't just a reaction but a lifestyle. One of 50 Cent's most psychologically sophisticated humiliation techniques is what we might call the origin story rewrite. When feuding with Rick Ross, 50 didn't just attack Ross's present, he repeatedly challenged the narrative of Ross's past, questioning everything from his pre-fame employment to his neighborhood credentials. This biographical undermining revealed 50's understanding that in hip-hop, authenticity is foundational to credibility. By attacking not just what Ross did, but who Ross fundamentally was, 50 attempted to invalidate not just specific claims, but Ross's entire right to participate in hip-hop culture as he presented himself. It's like revealing that a historical figure fabricated their background. Once the origin story is questioned, everything built upon it becomes suspect by association. When 50 Cent feuded with former G-Unit member Young Buck, he demonstrated his talent for using contractual obligations as humiliation tools. After their falling out, 50 publicly claimed that Buck was still contractually bound to G-Unit despite their personal enmity, essentially suggesting Buck was his employee even though they were enemies. This ownership humiliation revealed 50's understanding that in capitalist society, economic control can be more devastating than personal attacks. By highlighting that Buck was legally bound to him despite their conflict, 50 created a power dynamic where Buck appeared to be working for someone who actively humiliated him. It's like reminding an ex-partner that they still owe you money with each new relationship they enter. The ongoing obligation becomes a reminder of continued control despite the apparent separation. Most artists try to keep their legal issues private, but 50 Cent showed his unique transparency when he filed for bankruptcy in 2015, partly due to lawsuit judgments. Rather than treating this as an embarrassment, 50 immediately turned it into content, posting photos of himself with stacks of cash arranged to spell broke and making the legal process part of his social media narrative. This preemptive effective self-mockery revealed 50's understanding that controlling the framing of potentially embarrassing situations is crucial. By immediately making jokes about his own bankruptcy, 50 denied his enemies the satisfaction of mocking him first, essentially stealing their punchlines before they could deliver them. It's like making a joke about your own most obvious flaw when meeting new people. By addressing it on your own terms, you diffuse others' ability to use it against you. Did you know 50 Cent once used Christmas as an opportunity for elaborate humiliation? In December 2018, he posted a Christmas tree on Instagram with Ja Rule ornaments hanging from it, captioning it, "Southside rules apply. It's not over till one of us is gone." This holiday-themed hostility demonstrated 50's understanding that seasonal contextual contrasts can make humiliation more memorable. By incorporating his long-running feud with Ja Rule into Christmas imagery traditionally associated with peace and goodwill, 50 created a jarring juxtaposition that made the post stand out among typical holiday content. It's like putting insults in a birthday card. The violation of the occasion's expected tone creates a more striking impact than the same message delivered in a neutral context. When 50 Cent feuded with boxer Floyd Mayweather, he demonstrated his talent for turning friendship history into humiliation, ammunition. After their falling out, 50 didn't just attack Floyd directly, he repeatedly referenced specific private moments from their friendship, including claims about helping Mayweather with reading his promotional contracts, effectively weaponizing their past intimacy. This friendship betrayal approach revealed 50's understanding that former closeness can provide uniquely damaging material for humiliation. By sharing details that only he would know as Mayweather's former friend, 50 created the impression of insider truth rather than external criticism. It's like a spouse revealing private weaknesses after a divorce. The prior intimacy gives the revelations a credibility and sting that attacks from strangers could never achieve. One of 50 Cent's most psychologically devastating humiliation techniques is what we might call the delayed revelation. Years after his initial beef with Ja Rule, 50 would occasionally drop new evidence or previously untold stories about their conflict, keeping the humiliation fresh even when the active feud had cooled. This archival approach revealed 50's understanding that in the information age, timing the release of damaging content can be as important as the content itself. By holding back certain stories or receipts for years, 50 created a situation where Ja Rule could never feel truly free of the conflict, as new humiliations could emerge at any time. It's like telling someone the argument is over, but mentioning you've kept a detailed file of their past mistakes for future reference. The potential for renewed attacks becomes its own form of ongoing psychological pressure. Most artists try to maintain some plausible deniability in their feuds, but 50 Cent showed his direct approach when he publicly admitted during a radio interview that he had purchased the front row tickets to Ja Rule's concert specifically to leave them empty. Rather than allowing for any ambiguity about whether it was a coincidence, 50 proudly claimed responsibility for the sabotage. This ownership of antagonism revealed 50's understanding that in an era of carefully managed celebrity images, raw honesty about hostile intentions can be surprisingly effective. By openly admitting to actions that most celebrities would deny or downplay, 50 positioned himself as authentically antagonistic rather than strategically competitive. It's like not just stepping on someone's foot, but announcing to the room that you did it on purpose. Admission of intent transforms what could be seen as petty behavior into a display of confident honesty. Let's try one more quiz. Which of these is not a real reason for 50 Cent starting a beef with another artist? A, they worked with someone 50 was already beefing with. B, they criticized 50's music in an interview. C, they had better first week album sales. D, they wore the wrong color to an industry event. The answer is D. While 50 Cent has indeed started beefs because people worked with his enemies, criticized his music, or outsold him, there's no documented case of him starting a feud simply because someone wore the wrong color to an event. This demonstrates that despite his reputation for starting conflicts, there's usually at least some business or reputation-based logic behind 50's choices of enemies, even if his responses seem disproportionate. When 50 Cent feuded with Kanye West during their famous 2007 album sales battle, he demonstrated his talent for pre-framing potential outcomes. Before the results were announced, 50 repeatedly stated that if Kanye outsold him, it would only be because of Kanye's more commercial, pop-friendly sound rather than superior quality, essentially creating an excuse for potential loss before it happened. This preemptive rationalization revealed 50's understanding that controlling the narrative of defeat can be as important as victory itself. By establishing a framework where losing in sales would actually prove his greater hip-hop authenticity, 50 created a situation where even failure could be spun as a kind of success. It's like claiming before a race that you're wearing heavier shoes than your opponent. You've created an explanation for losing that preserves your reputation regardless of the outcome. Most artists engage in feuds through traditional media channels, but 50 Cent showed his multimedia approach when he created an entire documentary film called The Infamous Times Volume 1, The Source, targeting Benzino and Dave Mays during his conflict with The Source magazine. This wasn't just a music video or social media post, it was a full-length documentary presenting 50's side of the conflict. This documentary approach revealed 50's understanding that format implies legitimacy. By presenting his attacks on Benzino not as diss tracks, but as a seemingly journalistic documentary film, 50 gave his claims the appearance of objective reporting rather than subjective beat. It's like not just telling people your version of events, but creating a Netflix documentary about it. The professional formatting itself lends credibility to the content regardless of its actual objectivity. In what might be his most meta-humiliation technique, 50 Cent has repeatedly referenced his own reputation as hip-hop's premier antagonist, once posting, "They say I'm a bully, but I'm not. I just punch bullies in the face until they realize I'm not the one to bully." By embracing and then reframing accusations about his combative nature, 50 transformed what could be criticism into brand identity. This reputation ownership revealed 50's understanding that in entertainment, negative traits can become positive marketing if properly framed. By acknowledging and even celebrating his reputation for feuding, 50 positioned himself not as someone who can't get along with others, but as a principled enforcer of justice in an industry full of bullies. It's like a politician turning accusations of stubbornness into claims of principled consistency. The reframing transforms the very same behavior from a flaw into a virtue. One of 50 Cent's most calculated humiliation techniques is his selective memory regarding relationship. After falling out with The Game, 50 would sometimes claim in interviews that he wrote Game's entire first album, but other times would claim Game was so insignificant that 50 barely remembered working with him at all. Two completely contradictory narratives deployed strategically, depending on which would be more humiliating in the moment. This narrative inconsistency revealed 50's understanding that in humiliation, consistency is less important than impact. By freely contradicting his own previous statements about Game, 50 demonstrated that he was more concerned with what would be maximally damaging in each specific context than with maintaining a coherent story across time. It's like constantly changing the rules of a game to ensure your opponent always loses. The inconsistency itself becomes a power move demonstrating control over the interaction. And that's only a small sampling of 50 Cent's mastery of the art of humiliation. From buying rival concert tickets to leave seats empty, to creating entire fictional characters to narrate his disses, to turning beefs into merchandise opportunities. 50 has revolutionized how rappers approach conflict. What's most remarkable isn't just the individual techniques, but the comprehensive ecosystem of humiliation 50 has created. Every platform, every medium, every business venture becomes a potential weapon in his arsenal.